Welcome and greetings to all of you here. This is the very first meet and greet with the stewards here of the School of Mythopoetics. And the intention here is to create, just a way for us to say hello to you who are wondering whether or not the school is for you, if you're hearing the call, as well as to share a little bit about what has drawn us into this mysterious vortex of being in service to this school in the world. And so the intention is to, hear from each of us to share a little about our own story, what we're excited about in regards to the grand opening happening next week, June 1st, 2022, and hopefully stir the excitement even further for you to come join us on this adventure. I believe that I've been nominated to begin to set us off on our path, and so that's what I'll do. And so my name is Ian McKenzie, and I am I've been a filmmaker and a storyteller for a long time, but somewhat more recently, I created the Mythic Masculine podcast. And in some ways, this was very much like the precursor to what has now become the school. That inquiry through the podcast was really about, trying to understand, trying to wonder about masculinity, myth, culture, in a way that seemed rare, in the ecosystem out there of this kind of conversation. And from putting out that conversation, that many came and they were curious to say, how do I deepen with this work? How do I, wonder about it with others like me? And so myself and Daniel at the time created the Mythic Masculine Network, in fact, which has run for a good year and a half, almost 2 years, with folks that came. They heard the call and they came. And it was through that journey actually that we recognized that there was a bigger calling actually through what wanted to be conjured. There was something broader than just simply the frame of gender, the frame of masculinity, and so that really started us on a bit of a quest in a way to kind of intentionally wonder. And through that, weaving through that call, John Wolfstone, who's also been a longtime collaborator with myself and Dan as well, he brought his hefty medicine to the proceedings, and there was something within that triad initially as well that sparked like the next step on this journey. And somewhere last fall, I believe we were all sitting around a coffee shop on the tiny island of Salt Spring, and we were wondering, like, what did it want to be called? What is this thing? And the name came, the School of Mythopoetics. And something in that moment, dare I say, clicked, and suddenly it felt like the thing had a name. It had a name that felt true enough to continue on the journey, continue on the path. And I can just say a little bit about the other folk here too, that again, there's something about this spiraling nature of this vortex that sort of wrapped them in, whether consciously or not, but they found themselves, wrapped up in this doing. And we'll hear from them all in a moment. Of course, Benjamin Murphy as well has been a long time within the Mythic Masculine Network, has now stepped up into his new role. He connected us with Kirsten Webb here as well, you're going to hear from her. And somehow in the ether, I thought to reach out to longtime friend Marie Goodwin, who I've known for a better part of a decade now, I think, and knew that maybe there was, just an ask there of is there a curiosity? Would you be interested in, this happening as well? And grateful she said yes. And you're going to hear from her too. And so I'll just say for me, why I feel excited about this is in very much, I really wish this school existed when I was younger. I mean, that's really the basics of it. I felt adrift in a lot of ways now that I can see and recognize clearly, the desire for belonging, the desire for being drawn into a recognition that the world is actually a magical place, and not really having the tools or the cultural rituals and language that actually knew that and knew how to actually serve that. That to me was the cultural poverty that I grew up in. And maybe like you who might be wondering about this, that, maybe that resonates with you too. The world is magical. That there's a mythic significance to everything. And wouldn't it be grand if there was a place to go where you could meet other people and we could share in all the medicine we're bringing, including master teachers to come and deliver, what they've gathered in a meaningful context, in a meaningful soil that we can cultivate together. Really, that for me is the heart of what it is and why I'm so excited to be a part of it. And with that, I'm happy to pass it along. I believe up next would be Marie, if you'd be willing to share a little of, what are you got you excited and, what you'll be handling within the school.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marie Goodwin, and like Ian said, we have been friends for 10 years or more. I come to the Mythic Masculine work several years ago. Like talked with Ian about it, have been following the podcast. And so when the School of Mythopoetics, when Ian invited me in, it was this immediate yes. What I'm specifically working on or handling within the school is plate spinning, logistics, event planning, sort of back end stuff. But also, I'm really interested in beginning to work with ritual space and do some writing as well. And so I'm very, very new, only a few weeks now in, and just sort of getting my footing in the work that is being done here as we prepare for launch. But as we settle into cruising altitude this summer, I really am looking forward to doing more work with folks at the school. I'm excited about this for many reasons. I'm a mom to two teenage kids who have grown up in these really mythic times of the last few years. I think a lot of us recognize that we're in mythic times with COVID and with the crisis after crisis that is inhabiting our planet right now. And I've had to really struggle to help my kids make sense of it. And I found comfort in story. And my children have found comfort in story. And I think that when we see ourselves in myth and in story, um, and we can derive a sense of understanding from that, we feel more connected to something that's larger than ourselves and the problems that surround us. And I've been searching for a community forever. It seems like my whole life where people understood this. And this feels like a homecoming for me. It feels like a place where will meet people who understand this innate need of, in our humanness, to not only tell stories, but to inhabit stories. And so I just think that the way into healing from the 2.5 years of COVID and the healing that we require to support the planet and the more than human is going to be brought to us through story. So that's why I'm excited. And I'm also a writer. And so I inhabit story. I'm writing a novel. Um, and I feel that this connection to the divine, or I call it the numinous source of creativity, is something that we need to nourish and learn how to bring in and into our lives. And if you feel the creative urge at all, I think you might understand that these creative longings come from a place sometimes outside of ourselves. And so I see this as a way to support that. So
Beautiful.
that's me and why I'm interested, and I can't wait to meet all of you and to interact in the space. Thanks, Ian.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Marie. It's over to John now, I believe.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Marie. I'm sitting here with so much bubbling in me, and what comes to the surface is something actually that Ian said to me recently when he was talking to me in reflection on a Beltane gathering he was at. That was quite mythic, and he said, I had realized then that life is either mythic or it's nothing. And I feel like in some ways that is the call of the times we are in, because as far as I have understood and learned and experienced, the earth dreams through myth. And mythology is like the base cosmology by which humans see the world. And unless we can remember that and inhabit that, as Marie's so well said, we will continue to feel exiled as humans. And I know this, and probably like many of you, and I want to actually welcome you here now, because this is also a place for those who have felt exiled. And I think one of the core things this school is really working towards is really creating a more contained space for all of us on our own initiatory journeys. And we live in initiatory times. And what I mean by that, and to draw on a nature metaphor, because I'm definitely a nature geek, and one of the things I'm trying to hold down in the school, even though we are meeting often in this online space, is a real grounded connection to the natural world. And actually, the entire school is built around a wheel of the year that's grounded in both the earth and the cosmos. And I want to bring that in, as that is like a center pole for, I think, humans learning to be mythic again. So to get to this metaphor, sometimes people think of this underworld journey that is initiation as like a caterpillar going into a chrysalis. And in that process, what happens is the caterpillar essentially melts, is that these imaginal cells start to find each other and start to constitute the body of this greater being, a butterfly that has wings. And I feel like here at the school, part of what we are mythically doing, and part of what's happened here in this team, we didn't really, we had this dream, but this just flowed. We were imaginal cells finding each other. And if you're listening to this, I imagine you're also one of those imaginal cells that's probably had some hard times and probably recognizes we're having a pretty hard, dark, mysterious time right now on planet Earth. And you're feeling the call to come together and really journey and learn. And that's what we're offering here, is that place to come together and hear each other, and also hear the eldership that comes through stories, that comes through plants, that comes through other teachers, and really comes through this mycelial web of what happens when humans come together, be vulnerable, and really wonder aloud together. And I really want to say again that in that journey, what happens in that underworld space, that we are trying to be, in a way, a certain chrysalis for all of you, is that the wounds turn into and kind of bloom into the gifts that we're meant to carry. And that in that way, the school is also a place really of leadership training. It is a place of empowerment. And it's really a place for each of us to connect deeper into our own soul and our own soul path and that unique gift that we are meant to bring. And the people carrying often the most unique and precious gifts are the ones that are the rascals and the misfits and the outcasts, which I think all of us know at some level. So I'm also welcoming and calling all of you here that I feel disconnected in some way. And we're really going to be in this weaving of this online space where we can come together and learn and share and dialogue and be reflected. And then going out in the world where we're going to be applying and learning and trying to step into roles more of like leadership, and then coming back and being held and harvesting and doing that dance, this weaving again and again. So with that, I'm just really excited. And even beyond that, I just know this is necessary. I'm doing this because this is a call. This is where my soul path has led me. So yeah, I really feel honored to be sharing it with these other humans here. And yeah, just deep, so much thanks, so many thank yous to all of you to stepping in, to doing this with me. With that, I'll pass it back to the collective.
Thank you, John. I believe it's now over to Ben. Benjamin Murphy's going to share some of his story and what stirred him.
Hey there, everyone. My name is Ben. Yeah, sort of like churning on where to even begin. I mean, a big thread that feels important to name for me personally, related to wound, related to story, related to community, is where I come from in religion. Having been raised basically in a bubble of Christianity for first half of my life-ish, a little less than half now, I guess, up until like 15, 16. And around 18, as I started to get like, some inklings of other ways of thinking and other ways of approaching life and making sense and making meaning, primarily at that time it was through philosophy and learning about Greek philosophers. I found myself like essentially grappling with like a deep wound around feeling betrayed by this belief system that I was held in for pretty much completely, like just in a bubble of that. And since then has just been a series of different things that I've like morphed through and sifted my consciousness through to like have some sort of a right relationship with life. I feel like where I land now, appreciating the reality that so many people are also in some semblance of that scenario, given that even if somebody isn't raised in the religion itself, that they're being filtered through this culture that's essentially shaped by it and the values that come through it. And to find a different approach that I mean, it can also, this different approach of, mythopoetics is what I'm naming, can also go back and take all of that material that I was given then as a little kid when I didn't even know how to make sense of these things, and actually make some use of it much of the time. Like there's an opportunity to alchemize this raw material that was essentially wounding to me at a certain point, and kept me like feeling disconnected from people. I remember a specific moment of when I was sort of in this choice point of like letting go of the religion entirely, of having to grapple with the fact that I was connecting with really good people and they did things that really didn't agree with the statements of this religion. And I had to actually like realize like, this isn't good. This is not a good way to be living life, to be separating myself from people that I feel authentically connected to. And to grapple with, what we might call a meaning crisis in our culture, in our lives, like beyond just the religion, there's ways that like narratives go awry. And what I've found through this frame is sort of what I've come to understand is an older or a more foundational understanding of what religion used to be. The root word, it's contested actually. There's a couple different meanings. One is to read back. So to be able to go back to all these old stories that have like lived in a crude meaning and have been tested over time, and to go and pull meaning out of them for this time, to understand like who we are based on like where we came from, based on the stories that have been told in our cultures for millennia. The other meaning means to bind back. And that I think often means to bind to the god or to the deity, to the being that those stories were about. And I think it can also mean bind together, as in the people who are coming together, whoever are gathered. And I find that this organization, this school, this group of people, this community that are gathering, that's happening in both ways. So it's I'm finding it. I'm not going to call this a religion. It's not a religion, just to be clear. But excuse me. There's a need that was left in me after that experience as a child that I feel like a lot of people relate to, and being able to feel bound and held in community, and to be able to read back and find meaning in all of these cultural artifacts that have survived for so long has just been immensely meaningful for me. And I'm part of the crew holding down the Story Weavers call, and so it's exactly what I get to do, is to like look at an old story and pull it forward and embody it and invoke it and feel it moving through me, and then do my best to transmit that to those who are showing up. And then to have that collaborative process unfold as other people are caught by things in the story. So that's me. That's where I'm feeling connected to this place and feeling inspired in my life and experiencing healing in this lovely context of belonging.
Thank you, Ben. Oops, I think it's over to Kirsten now, which is, there she is. Awesome.
Not sure what
Thanks.
happened there.
Over to you, Kirsten.
Thanks, Ian. Let's see here. So, along with everything that's been shared already about the power and necessity of this school right now, my screen's reversed now. It's a little confusing. That's okay. Trickster magic. So I guess I'll just share a little bit about my backstory and what has drawn me to this school and this work. All through my childhood and kind of adolescence, I always had this deep, deep draw to the other world, this knowing that I was part of a lineage of witches, of magical people, of something, but didn't have any context for it, didn't have any guidance, didn't, but was just so attuned to it, so passionate about it. And I brought this all the way into into college, into university, into like super academic ivory tower land, and was just trying so hard to kind of reconcile that world that I thought I was supposed to be in with the other world, with this world that I felt so deeply connected to, but so alienated, from my peers, from basically the rest of the world, the deeper I went into it. And I tried after graduation to like have a normal life, normal job for a little while, but then was pulled by spirit, intuition, as I imagine many here what were in their early 20s, and many of you watching this too may have had similar experiences of just being pulled by this deeper force, which I came to just call my intuition, that led me, began to lead me on this journey, this, I guess, for lack of a better word, spiritual journey, mythopoetic journey, though I didn't quite have that context for it yet. That really continues to this day, 17 years later, still on it, but I've learned a lot of tools along the way. So there were many years of just wandering, literal wandering, nomadicness, just trying to follow this call, follow my dreams, like my literal nighttime dreams, following, something that was guiding me into a truer experience of life. And thankfully, along the way, I began to discover, women who run with the wolves. I began to discover other mythologies. In college, I had been already studying mythology, especially women's storytelling, women's narrative, and queer mythologies and narratives. I was really having a lot of trouble reconciling the kind of more masculine myths that have been passed down. They're coming from that perspective, and it's like, how do we find, as women, as queer people, as non-binary people, how do we find our place within these myths? How do we kind of trouble that a little bit? How do we carve out and just find our own threads within them? Where are the myths for us? And so that was a lot of my questioning too, in these years and years of wandering and inquiry and discovery. And I began slowly to like unearth some of these and to kind of find, and again, Clarissa Pinkola Estes was crucial in that. But slowly began to kind of piece together these maps for myself. I was on this deep initiatory journey, which only deepened years later with chronic illness, which completely took me into this underworld for many years. And the only thing that was really able to help me find my way, was orienting myself within this deeper story, in these deeper stories. But still, it was just such a solo process. And so now being part of this school, which like a few people who've already spoken, I feel like I've just been kind of magnetized into. It wasn't on purpose. I didn't seek it out. It's just, okay, now this is your soul work. Find my thread again. What part of what I envision the school being is again, like what's been said, to be a gathering place, to be a home for those of us who've either already been on or on these kinds of journeys and are needing more context and community and that feel of return, right? Because the initiatory process includes like the severance and then the journey, and then we return to community, to village. And what is that in our lives right now? And so this school for me is a place where we can enact all of those stages, and especially the return, especially this way of like, okay, what have we learned, and like, how can we offer it right back into the world, back into our physical communities? And beyond that, I just feel like there's such a need right now in our world to re-enchant, to be reconnected with the magic, as has already been talked about too, and the mystery and like the story, that the deep song, right? That's like behind and within everything. And I think for those of us coming from settler ancestry, it can be hard to access that, not only because, you know, we're disconnected for so many reasons from these lineages of our ancestors, but also from the land on which, you know, our ancestors walked. And I think it's still possible to recreate or just cultivate our connection with land, with place, and with the other world, with the invisible realms, with the ancestors, wherever we are. And that it's actually necessary to keep this world alive right now and to keep ourselves alive. I know that if this had existed, the school, when I was in my 20s, it would have changed everything. And so I look forward to being a place where people can come and yeah, find community, find inspiration, find the magic, find the enchantment, and create it together, right? Because these myths aren't just what they were in the past. We're also creating them together all the time, and they need us to. They need us to take our imagination and take these threads that we've inherited. It's not the whole picture. We're never going to be in the context in the same way that our ancestors who created these stories were, but we can take the threads that we've each come with. And in this school, it's like we're each going to come with a different piece of this greater puzzle and share together. Yeah, so those are some words. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirsten. All right, here we go, over to Daniel Robert.
Hello, everyone. I have the honor of going last in our little share here today. I first just want to say thank you and speak to you, whoever is watching. If you're still here with us in this recording, I really just want to honor your attention and that you're curious and interested, and that you are here and giving us a chance to be heard by you. And whatever path you're walking on that has led you here, I imagine you share some similarities with the stories you've already heard, the call, the sort of draw to something mysterious, but that feels true. And that is certainly a story for me as well. So Ian shared a little bit about our history, mythic masculine, my own path of wandering, searching, looking for something that I couldn't quite put my finger on, what was missing, but that I had always felt. And sure enough, my wanderings led me into the midst of folks like Ian and John, and a certain work that we had done together, and of course the Mythic Masculine podcast. And before that, I would say really it was Ian's introduction of Iron John to me and a group of other fellow men that really brought home this part of the journey for me, or at least signaled to me I was on the right track in some way. I had found something that was unexpected, but that met some longing in me. I didn't know that I was looking for this. I did not come searching for this. I was more or less wandering on my own spiritual journey, looking for something: community, belonging, simplicity, a sense that it was good and right to be troubled by what I saw in the world and welcomed into a field or a group of others who were willing to be troubled together about it. I suppose really a lack of story is what brings me here, a sense of an absence of story. And what a thing to wrestle with as a younger one. And I happen to be, I believe, the youngest in the group here. And I appreciate that a few others have already named it, this sense of if I had this earlier in my life. And I just happen to be on the tail end of getting it maybe a bit earlier in my life, and it has made all the difference already in the short time I've been exposed to this. And so I suppose I want to say something too to any youngers who are watching. You know, if you're in your 20s, your early 30s, or even younger than that, I think it's a strange work to get into. It's so mysterious. It's so counter to everything that is offered us, I think, by modernity, by modern culture. And often the thing that touches me the most in this work is being around folks who are older, who have more experience, who've seen more, and they see me as a younger man, and they see the teenage boys they know in their life. They see some hope, some possibility for that something might be done, that they might be brought into something meaningful when there seems such a lack of that these days in the relentless crisis of the times. So I suppose that's what I'm really here for, is that I'm really here for the people. I love the stories, and I love all the things that bring us together, and the rituals and the ceremonies, but it's when I get to share in stories with another person that I'm most touched by this work. Which brings me to what I do really here on the network. The big thing is I'm the main facilitator for our weekly council, Way of Council practice. So circles, I love circles. How simple a thing. These simple tools, these simple technologies that somehow we almost lost, to sit in a circle with others and to listen. It's such a revolutionary act in times like these, is what I have found. And so that's one of the main seats that I hold. And the other would be cycles of time, cycles of celestial bodies. I'm the main mytho-astrologer fellow of the group. So when we do our solar themes, our new and full moon reports, I'm generally the lead on those and bringing in the mytho-astrological archetypal insights that serve as a sort of jump off point for us to get into archetypal understandings, what kind of stories we're going to bring in each month, what might be happening in the mythopoetic currents of the day. And I do my best to wrangle in the genius of these ones that I'm blessed to have around me. And they have done a lot for me, I would say, in burdening me with the task of helping make this work real. That's one of the other things that I've really felt was a lack or an absence in my life, was not being tasked appropriately, not being recognized in what gifts I had or that were brewing, and having an appropriate weight placed upon me of task, of purpose, of place, of responsibility to a community, of belonging to a community. And that's what is so important to me about this. It's a lot of what I have been longing for in my own life has proven to be very difficult to wrangle all together at one time in the real world, if you will, the physical world, to put together something of this, I want to say that the holistic quality of what we're attempting to bring, to have that really rooted in place with people living on land together, the village dream, has proven very challenging. And so I appreciate that we are leaning into the technology of the times by offering something that maybe can hold a bit more of a stability, because it's online, because we're spread apart, because we have this opportunity to come to it, to step away from it, to come to it and step away from it, to sort of titrate between the potency of being exposed to what for so long we didn't have. It can be quite a volatile experience. So I'm here for that. I'm here for the people. I'm really excited to meet you. I hope you'll join us. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here with you. And thanks to my fellow team members. I hope I said all the good things that I was meant to say. And blessings, and back over to you, Ian.
Beautiful. Yeah, I for one, I'm just grateful to hear from all of you as well, to hear what brought you. Some I know far more than others, but also, just hearing things differently in a new way. What's inspired you to be here is also nourishing to me. And with that, again, I put out the call to all of you tuning in, curious, leaning in. to join us in the School of Mythopoetics. If you're still wondering with a sense of, wait, so what is it? The best way maybe I could say it now is that it's an immersive, year-long, just dive into a mythopoetic way of being, practice, ritual, a way of seeing, and that we follow the cycle of the year bound to earth-based, the processions of the calendar mixed with archetypes and elements. That being said, yes, we encourage you to sign up as a founding member before June 1st to gain access to a whole year. And from there, again, you can keep going, or you can get off. I mean, it's up to you. But the point is that it's an ongoing immersion that also will include specific offerings, specific courses and salons and things like this for the scholars and wanderers. There's 2 tiers. The wanderers are those that, again, you're deep in it, you're immersed, but perhaps, it's not as extensive as the scholars, which includes the story weavers, which is a specific story group, in this case, stewarded by Ben and Kirsten. If that's of interest to you, yeah, that's the level for you at Scholar. So again, recommend head to schoolofmythopoetics.com, check out, tons of the info there, all the different offerings that are going to be available. Again, I encourage, if you lock in before June 1st, the rate is, vastly different than it will be afterwards. So I encourage you to join then. And again, the mystery continues to unfold, and I hope you join us.
Thank you.